Former President Trump isn't backing down from a $350 million civil fraud verdict against him. But New York's Attorney General Letitia James says that she's ready to seize his buildings if he can't pay. Lydia Hu is outside Trump Tower in New York City with the details. Lydia.
Hi there, Emily. New York Attorney General Letitia James' promise means that massive buildings like Trump Tower that you see just behind me could be the targets of seizures by the New York Attorney General's office. Watch here.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
But Trump's legal team says they will appeal, and to prevent the Attorney General from seizing properties, they have only 30 days from the verdict to pay cash for that $355 million fine into an escrow account or post an appeal bond. Now, last night, the former president spoke with Laura Ingraham, and he said he would not be able to tell us whether he would have to sell one of his prized properties to cover these costs. Listen to Trump's comments about the judgment and New York Judge Arthur Engoron, who ruled against him.
Well, I have a lot of cash, but that doesn't mean he can take it. I mean, you know what he did? I think he looked at my cash and he said, well, we'll take all of his cash.
And Emily, I had the chance to speak to bond companies today who tell me if the former president were to pursue obtaining an appeal bond, they would likely ask him to offer the full amount of the judgment or very close to it to secure it. So no matter his avenue, it seems like he's on the hook for coming up with more than $400 million in the short term. Emily.
Lydia, thank you so much. That's right. It tops $460 million when you include interest. Meanwhile, former President Trump gave a preview of what his administration could look like, revealing his shortlist for vice president during last night's Fox News town hall. Watch.
The first quality has to be somebody that you think will be a good president, because if something should happen, you have to have somebody that's going to be a great president. A lot of people are talking about that gentleman right over there. And he's been so great. He's been such a great advocate. I have to say, this is in a very positive way, Tim Scott. He has been much better for me than he was for himself.
So someone who can step into the role.
Most importantly, you have to view that.
The audience has been asked who they think would be a good choice, and various names came up. One of them was, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy. He's made a big splash. Ron DeSantis, who's making an appearance today in South Carolina, we just found out. Obviously, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, and a big presence here for Tulsi Gabbard. Very interesting. And Kristi Noem as well, I should say. Right. Are they all on your short list? And when can we expect that you will announce your choice?
And honestly, all of those people are good. They're all good. They're all solid. And I always say I want people with common sense, because there's so many things happening in this country that don't make sense. Who wants an open border? Who wants high interest rates? Who wants all electric vehicles? And they're fine.
I love that, David Webb. While the Democrats are obsessed with strategy and checking boxes, he just wants someone with common sense, he says.
Yeah, and something important that he said in the very beginning of this, which is that we need somebody ready to step in. Mm-hmm. You know, vice presidents have always been that backstop to a tragedy, and we've seen that throughout our history. Anything is possible. And I think it's important that we see that common sense, capability. You need the ability to put a team together and to work with the existing team. And I think most people can recognize that in our daily lives, in our business lives, you have a structure within a company. You need to run the country like a business as well.
And interestingly, Kayleigh, you've talked about that the former president is a master of media and of marketing. So is he sort of calling out the time as we all talk about the short list, we have our Vegas odds, or do you feel indeed that he is assessing and weighing each candidate that he mentioned equally?
I think he would be very smart to drag this out as long as he possibly can. To just, right before the convention, then pull out the name. He gets an earned media cycle, free media, every time he mentions a short list, every time he mentions a name. it's covered widely. And there are a lot of good names. You know, there were names, Laura listed a bunch of fantastic names. Others, Sarah Sanders, Elise Stefanik, that have been floated out there as good, solid conservative candidates. I was fascinated, though, that last night he mentioned Senator Tim Scott because he mentioned Senator Tim Scott on our network with Maria Bartiromo about a week ago. So I think this is someone under serious consideration. On a short list of who can win over independents, Senator Tim Scott stands out. I had him on Hannity with me Monday night, and I said to him, hey, I'm not going to ask you if you'll take the VP slot, but I am going to ask you if you would relish the chance to debate Kamala Harris. And he said, yes, but I'd like to do it in Eagle Pass, Texas, where he just was. Yeah. He'd like to debate the border czar. Fantastic pick if he is the pick.
Also, if I may interject, really smart going into South Carolina 3 days away to play to it. I mean, Trump's playing smart politics and messaging here because 60 to 35 or whatever the real number is over Nikki Haley, when you bring that support to the table, you want to crush your opponent in the balloting.
And Harris, that was going to be my question, which is, you know, who isn't in that list is Nikki Haley. And many have argued that her ship has sailed and really is past the point of no return, they feel, to ever be considered, despite what Tim Scott said the other day on Hannity to you, which was, we'd welcome her as part of our team, that she will never be welcomed back into the fold.
I think in the last 24 hours, they both have said that, Trump and Nikki Haley, that, you know, maybe not the word ship has sailed, but she doesn't want the second seat. And we'll see what happens with that. Politics are a blood sport. Yeah. So we don't really know what people need and what they'll pull on. Tim Scott's interesting, though, because the last rally that Trump had in New Hampshire, and remember, people voted 90 minutes later because they started at midnight. And the voice that you saw so much on that stage was Senator Tim Scott. He was kind of the warm-up to the president coming out, and then he came filtered back in. And then we saw after he won South Carolina the I love you line from Tim Scott. They clearly have a friendship. They clearly have some sort of connection, and he clearly is from South Carolina, Tim Scott. So the timing on it is auspicious. It's also a place where Joe Biden needs the black vote, and he clearly is from South Carolina. Yeah. And people love him there. So let's see what happens with it. But I think he's strong in the running. And I know we showed the big wall. There are other people we didn't even mention. Byron Donalds has been very strong with Trump as well. Right.
And speaking of Joe Biden, Tim, we wanted to get this in, which was Trump being asked by Laura about whether or not he would debate President Biden. Let's take a listen to his answer.
But back to Biden and his current state, whatever you want to call it. Will you challenge him to regular debates?
I'll do it right now on your show. I'll challenge him right now, and we can do you can do anybody you want.
How many debates would you commit to?
As many as necessary. I would like to do it starting now. I don't think he's going to debate, though. I really don't think so.
Yeah, you know, the American people have to see that, right? This shouldn't even really be a question. Because we've got two men. We've got to see Biden, if he can actually deliver in some fashion to give people an excuse to be able to vote for him. And it's been a while since people have seen. He didn't participate in the debates during the primary season, Trump. So people need to see him. It's been several years. The world has changed dramatically. So we want to see him, you know, solidify where he stands on those issues. And he will do it. And just the nature of the manner of the enthusiasm, the energy, the grasp on the issues. That's why it needs to happen. Joe Biden will likely not do it, and I think that is also going to be the biggest statement, a negative one, that he could ever make.
That's right. If they did, could you really imagine that debate? I mean, hashtag TKO.
I'm hoping.
TKO. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.